Yo, what is up, guys? We're bringing you a football, aka soccer episode for Hitting the Field. And I'm Manuel Chimoy with
Robert Husby, how's everybody doing out there?
good, good.
Doing Nick Geddes. How are y'all doing today?
All right, and with that said, I guess we're just gonna roll into what we're gonna talk about. So first, we're gonna talk about the MLS. Obviously more Orlando. So Robert, tell me how do you think Orlando um how do you think they're doing in the tournament? We obviously seen them not do so good when the season was starting this year, and obviously with the whole Corona stuff, they had to stop it. But they were kind of like just tying, and it looked like it was a little bit of a change. But then it looks like maybe they were going back to how they used to play. But with the tournament, they've been nuts. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, they've been like shockingly good. I figured they would be pretty good this year. They finally got a competent goal, and Brian Rowe was good last season, but they finally got a really competent goalkeeper back there with Pedro Galeste. Obviously he's Peru's international goalkeeper, so he's been really good for them. The defense is picking off where it left off last season, where they had a complete turnaround from defenses past, where they're conceding a lot less goals. The midfield looks improved. Nani has been great. Chris Mueller has been fantastic. I mean, this has really been his tournament. I think really Orlando City, they've taken, they've lost out on 1 point in all their matches. They won Group A. I think, being at home, I think they look very comfortable. They've never really been out of the match. Obviously, the Inter Miami win came really late in the match, but they've played their competition well, and I really think the only thing you can complain about with Orlando City is they still don't have a consistent striker up top. Dom Dwyer has not looked good at all again, and there's still so many doubts with him. And I just don't think Tesho Akindele, while I think he's talented, I don't think he's a starting striker. That's a guy you bring off the bench. So but the rest of the team has looked really, really good. They look locked in, and they're definitely taking this tournament by storm. They look like one of the best teams in this tournament so far.
No, yeah, definitely agree with you on that one. Chris Mueller, I love that kid, and I always knew that he was gonna be pretty big, but this tournament he has been out of this world. The man's just been dribbling left, right. He's been finishing like if he was Messi, just going through the fenders. Like I don't know what he changed, but oh man, Chris Mueller is incredible. Obviously Orlando are like every time they get scored on, they're quickly just coming back with another goal, which is good. Their mentality is it's excellent at the moment. Something that Orlando City was definitely not a big fan of. Their mentality was pretty off. But Nick, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think Robert echoed a lot of great sentiments that I share as well. And the midfield I thought has been pretty stellar, and the wingers Mueller and Nani have been stepping up their play tremendously. And this is, I think, I'm very surprised by the way Orlando has played, because this is a team that has never been in the MLS playoffs. They've always underachieved, and this little tournament style has kind of allowed them to get hot at the right time. And they've been fantastic in group play, and being one of the first teams to clinch to be moving on is a big accomplishment for this team. And I'm very excited to see where it takes them in the later rounds.
Yeah, no, I can see. So let's see. Group A, obviously Orlando and Philly going through. NYCFC third and fourth. Inter Miami with no points. You guys thought maybe in the beginning, anything from that table, how it is right now, was gonna be a little bit shifted or anything?
I'm surprised Inter Miami's this bad. I really thought they'd be a
Sure.
little bit better, considering what's happened with LAFC and Atlanta United since they've come into the league. Inter Miami is well funded under David Beckham. It's not like they're coming in as a team that really can't spend. Obviously, they spent big on Rodolfo Pizarro, and they spent big on Mauricio Pellegrini and stuff like that. These young kids, but I mean, they just look terrible. They don't really have a striker that can be consistent. I mean, they signed Leandro Gonzalez Perez from
Yeah.
obviously he used to play with Atlanta United. He is not eligible for this tournament, but I just don't think they look good. Their defense is so bad, and I'm a little bit shocked that they're this bad, but now they're kind of showing what they are, that they're a team that came into the league, and I think a lot of people thought they would be better based on past team successes, and now they're just really dropping the ball.
Oh yeah, I feel you on that one. I personally thought Philly was gonna be on top, but obviously because of, I mean, they could have been, but because of goal difference, they're not. I knew Philly was gonna be obviously. Man, Orlando was gonna be at least second. From what I did with Jeremy. Just because it looked like a new team. I'm surprised that I thought NYCFC was gonna battle a little bit more. To be honest, I thought maybe I was gonna get one of them wrong, and NYCFC was gonna be their second or. But oh yeah, that's pretty surprising. Nick.
Yeah, and I think Robert spoke a lot about Inter Miami, and I think what hasn't helped Inter Miami, they really haven't a chance to get in the groove because they weren't able to play many games when the season started, and then you have this 4 or 5 month layoff, and then you go straight into a tournament play, and it's very hard for a team to go that long without training and getting really adjusted, and the manager and the tactics and all that goes along with it to really get in a groove. So it hasn't helped them at all. And Inter Miami, it's not much you can really build from this season. It's almost like starting from scratch next year. And David Beckham obviously has funds to spend, and I would bet the cows on it that David Beckham is going to bring somebody in from Europe in the Latin Light, someone like that, to probably get this team going in the right direction. But it's going to take a lot of work, and there's really just not much, unfortunately, they can take away from this season. And I think Philadelphia definitely showed their class along with Orlando, and so I wasn't really very surprised what happened in this group. It kind of went exactly how you would think it would go. Besides Philadelphia, I thought would probably be on top of the group.
Yeah. Same. It's funny how you actually say Beckham bringing a European star. Do you guys actually think with this whole Corona, pandemic, that could actually still happen? Obviously, United States is a hotspot, especially Florida and Miami, which is even, more nuts. Do you really think they want to come here at the moment, or even bring their family here? How do you guys feel about that?
If you roll up the money truck, I think they will.
Yeah.
Yeah, money talks, and I mean,
yeah.
that's a great point that you bring up, though, and one that I really, kind of overlooked, and it's one thing that you tend to overlook now, but it is definitely a factor, and because I mean, there's been a lot of big names who are in their 30s now that have been rumored to come to Inter Miami, and I mean, if I were one of them, I would have questions about coming here with the state of how it's been going.
Yeah, no, that's definitely that's gonna be interesting for sure. There's a lot of players, even James, obviously not in his 30s yet, but he could come for Miami, and who knows? But I mean, Rodolfo Pizarro obviously has that spot, but who knows what's gonna happen. So for Group B, we got Toronto on top with 5 points, New England with 5 points, Montreal Impact with 3, and DC United with 2. Robert, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit surprising from DC United. I think a little bit that they only have 2 points in their bottom of that group. They haven't been good at all, since the season's restarted. But I guess it makes sense. I mean, they did lose Lucho Acosta, which is that's your best player. That was their best player by far. But
Yeah.
I think it's hurt them a lot. It's just I don't know. They're sort of a weird team. I don't know. They're not really. They shouldn't be this bad, but at the same time, there's nothing really. The defense is good. Frederick Briand and Steven Birnbaum are very good for MLS quality, but going forward, it's just sort of very lackluster. And since they lost Lucho Acosta, this season, I think it shows that they're really, really lacking. And obviously, they don't have Wayne Rooney as well. I mean,
Yeah.
They haven't had him for about a season and a half, but that definitely factors in as well.
For sure. Rooney was, what really changed DC United as a whole team for me personally.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like when Ibra came to LA, even though obviously he didn't have the same impact as Wayne Rooney. But I mean, to be honest, LA Galaxy could have been worse if they didn't have Ibra, in my opinion.
Oh, you're seeing them now, how worse they are without Ibrahimovic.
Yes, and we're definitely gonna get on that one. Nick, anything you want to say about Group B?
Yeah, I think Toronto, leading the group at the moment, they've been part of some exciting games, and the 20-year-old Akinola, 5 goals,
Oh,
5 of the 6 goals scored by him, and Pozzello has assisted on all 5. So that's been a very, very good link up for Toronto, and I think it's one to keep an eye on. I mean, they're flying up front, and they have to be one of the favorites if they can find out a way to defend a little better going forward.
oh yeah, true. So let's see. Group C, we got Sporting, 6 points, Minnesota 4 points, Real Salt Lake 4, and Colorado with 0 points. Robert.
Yeah, that's it's an interesting group. Again, another team with no points in their group. Doesn't surprise me though. I think unlike DC United, I think Colorado's just sort of in this constant state of they need a huge turnaround. They haven't really been good the last few seasons. They're a weird team. They're just kind of always on the down, and it just doesn't seem like it's getting better. And they kind of are what they thought they were. I think this group over a lot of other groups is really just not. It's a little bit predictable. It's not so much, you see the teams like Real Salt Lake and stuff like that, obviously made the playoffs last season, or the season before that. And, they're it's not surprising this group how it's finishing. And, so it doesn't shock me as much as like Inter Miami or something like that, where Colorado's bottom of that pack and has 0 points.
Yeah, no, definitely. Not gonna lie though, when I first saw that group, I was like, it could go kind of everywhere. I didn't really think Colorado was gonna do that bad, to be honest. I thought maybe they would at least get a point, maybe even a win. It's for all 4 of those teams are kind of like pretty wild cards to me, especially Real Salt Lake. But yeah, no, I like the way it kind of turned out for Group C. Not gonna lie, I'm just kind of shocked about it, to be honest. Nick?
Yeah, I think it's one of the weaker groups I think I've seen. It's pretty. I don't think there was a standout team really here, head and shoulders above everyone, and one that really. I thought, sometimes you think they'd rather have a better effort than this, but it really hasn't turned out for Colorado, and it's kind of they're just in this state of flux once again this year, where they a lot of development has to be done, and players have to come in. But again, the question is who's going to want to come to Colorado, and so that's going to be something they have to keep an eye on going forward.
For sure. Yeah, Colorado has, just like Miami, I feel like they're gonna need to rebuild some stuff. Maybe even bring young kids. Something has to help. Needs to help for them. But so Group D, the juicy one, I would say. Portland with 6 points, LAFC with 4, Houston Dynamo with 1, and obviously, surprisingly, LA Galaxy with 0 points below Houston Dynamo, which I was not expecting. Robert.
Yeah, obviously not having Chicharito has hurt LA Galaxy a lot. They look, and I knew this would be a problem without Ibrahimovic. Ibrahimovic covered up a lot of problems that they did have. Obviously, they don't have Alessandrini anymore. Pavon looks very good, but really hasn't done so much to say that he's, taking that mantle of best player. But, outside of, Chicharito being hurt, I mean, that defense is a mess. It's just a messy team. Even the midfield is so lackluster. And then you look at the 2 teams at the top of this group. You look at Portland, you look at LAFC. And I've adopted LAFC since I am from LA, since they came into the league as a new team. So I've obviously watched a lot of their matches, and I've been shocked how good they've been without Carlos Vela. I figured they'd be good still, but I mean the quality that Brian Rodriguez and Diego Rossi have brought forth. I mean, obviously Diego Rossi had 4 goals against the LA Galaxy a few nights ago. I mean, they just look fantastic. I mean, the defense looks a little bit questionable. I still question the Walker Zimmerman transfer, but I think their defense is what it is right now. But their midfield is elite. Their forward group is elite, and even Bradley Wright Phillips. I mean, he's 35, 36, and he has 2 goals in 2 games. He looks great. So I think they finally found their number 9. But and credit to Portland too. Portland's won 6 points so far, and it's a race between number 1 and number 2 right now, and they play each other on Thursday, and it's one of the most interesting matches throughout these entire groupings in this tournament.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now that you actually talk about, obviously, or a lot of people call it El Tráfico, with
Yeah, El Tráfico.
versus LAFC. Obviously that 6-2, defeat was pretty wild. Yeah, obviously, Rossi had like 4 goals that game, right?
Yeah, four goals. 4 goals.
Or former left back from Orlando, El Munir also scored.
Yeah, that was a beautiful goal.
Yeah, how do you think El Munir is really setting up in LAFC, to be honest?
He's not really starting much. Obviously, last summer transfer period, they got Diego Palacios, who I think he's like 19, 20. He's young. And he's part of Colombia's under 23 team. So he's been good for them. And Diego Palacios, I think, is a little bit better defensively than El Munir. El Munir is almost like a wing back. He's not very good defensively. But no, when he does play for them as a sub, comes on as sort of that wing back role. You're sacrificing defense a little bit, but he looks good. He gets involved in play, certainly better than Jordan Harvey, I think. So he's a nice piece to have off the bench.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie. When El Munir left Orlando, I was kind of like in shock just because we didn't really have a left back, and then João Moutinho just came out of nowhere.
I'm still shocked they got Moutinho for El Munir. I think Moutinho's better.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then after he played a few games, I was like, yeah, never mind. I think it was the right choice. But yeah, Nick, anything you want to say about that group?
The LA teams. It's obviously they're both going in very different directions as a franchise. And LA Galaxy, listen, like Robert hit the nail on the head. Zlatan covered up so much that this team had an inability to do. And furthermore, he brought such a presence to the team, and I think his play and his demand of quality around him is what helped other players succeed, and it just hasn't been there for LA Galaxy all season long. And in this tournament, they're just dreadful, absolutely dreadful in the back, and up front, not much creativity to be seen. Chicharito, his season ends in a very disappointing way, kind of like his career, very disappointing. It just, he did not take MLS by storm like many thought he would. He did not live in Zlatan's shadow, I should say, rather. And I don't know if it was just too much for him, the pressure to be a number one in LA, but it just didn't happen for him. And on the contrary, LAFC have looked amazing without Carlos Vela, and Diego Rossi has proved that he can carry the load when Vela's not there. Bradley Wright Phillips has been a great veteran presence up front as well. So Bob Bradley's got this team looking good up front. As Robert said, they have a lot of defending woes that they need to get right. And if they're going to win the championship this year, that's going to have to be fixed in short time. But I like where LAFC is going, and I'm very disappointed to see where LA Galaxy is ending up.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, now that I think about it, so, who would you actually think, just kind of a curiosity question. Let's say Orlando goes to the final and LAFC goes to the final.
Yes.
Who are you putting your money on that one?
As far as who would I be rooting for, or who do I think would win that?
Who do you think you would win?
Oh man, it'd be close. I think just given the firepower of LAFC, I think I'd have to go with LAFC. But Orlando City has really made me a believer in them this year. I really think this is their one year that they can get into the playoffs. I think this is finally time for them to actually make the playoffs. They look, a lot of their competition is the East is, some teams are not as good as they were. Some teams are better than they were, but it's sort of a shift now. And Orlando City, I think, has enough quality, minus the striker issue. I think Orlando City has enough quality to make it an interesting match and actually be in the playoffs this season. So it'll be interesting, but I would still put money on LAFC personally.
Talking about the striker issue, now you actually mentioned, before we go to Group E, how would you think Nani would fit in the striker role?
Oh man, I don't even know. When's the last time he played striker? Has he?
I think the first game against Miami, if I'm correct, I could be wrong. They did put him as a I think they played in a 4-4-2 formation, and they put him as a striker with Dwyer.
That's true. They did do that. Yeah. He's not really a finisher. That's the problem. He's not. They need a pure just finisher. I mean, Nani and Mueller can both score goals. Obviously, Mueller scores more than Nani. Nani's not really. He's never been a goal scorer. So, I think he's a lot like, Eden Hazard in that sense where, he's not a huge goal scorer. He's more of a playmaker. So you really need a finisher up top, and that's where it becomes a problem, because you can't just look for Nani to be a goal poacher or a guy that can create his own chances and score goals like that, because he's not that type of player. He can set you up for it, but he's not gonna be able to do that himself. So I think they are, in a dilemma, and that's a problem that does need to be addressed.
Oh yeah, for sure. Orlando City has been rumored with a lot, I will tell you, strikers. It's just nuts. Like you could at least tell that Orlando's board, obviously they're trying to get a striker as fast as they can, because
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen, but they've been linked with almost every other striker that from like South America, Mexico. It's just nuts how much they're probably working at the moment. But talking about teams that have been lacking a little bit, Group E, I would say, definitely a group that I thought personally was almost anyone's game, specifically for the person that's the number 4. But let's obviously start with number 1, Columbus Crew with 9 points, New York Red Bulls with 3, Cincinnati with 3, which is kind of a shocker to me, to be honest, and Atlanta United with 0, which is a bigger shocker for me. So, Robert, what do you think about that?
Yeah, Atlanta United, Columbus, surprises me that they're this good. I didn't think Columbus would be this good, but I think more surprisingly, probably for everybody, I think is just how bad Atlanta United is. I don't want to say that Joseph Martinez is, the entire team, but he looks like he's the entire team. With him out for the year with that ACL injury, they got nobody up top. I think they brought in, I think from Tigres, I think they brought in Jurgen Damm, who, I don't think he's played yet, but, losing Leandro Gonzalez Perez hurts a lot. They have really nobody on defense anymore. Nobody really, nothing spectacular on defense. And, I think losing Darlington Nagbe, losing Julian Gressel, which I thought was just, that transfer made no sense to me. And then just really disappointing football from PT Martinez and Ezequiel Barco. Both combined, I think, costed over 30 million, and they're terrible. They're not good at all.
Yep,
and they're just not taking that mantle. When you're spending that much money on players like that, especially as an MLS side, when you really can't afford to be spending that much, and you're supposed to be, PT Martinez supposed to be the replacement for Miguel Almiron. They're just not. And, nobody's picking up the slack. It shows. No goals in all 3 matches they've played, and they're out of the tournament. So, it's pretty pitiful football from them without Martinez.
No, yeah. I thought Pity Martinez was definitely going to be much better, to be honest. Sadly, I guess he's sleeping. I don't know what he's doing. But, yeah, no, when I saw this group before this whole thing started, obviously I thought Atlanta was going to be on the top. I didn't even think Columbus was going to be top 2, even top 1. That's just nuts to me. I thought New York was going to be where they were, and Atlanta was probably going to be on top. But yeah, what do you think Columbus is actually doing that well?
For me personally, I think it's just it's winning, obviously. But they had 4 goals against Cincinnati. They've had 2 goals against the Red Bulls. They had a goal against Atlanta. It's scoring more goals this season. Obviously they were the ones that added Nagbe. They're a good side. They have a good team this year, and I think they benefit a little bit from the fact that this is one of the weaker groups. Obviously, New York Red Bulls aren't so spectacular anymore. Cincinnati was, I think, the worst team in the league last season. And Atlanta obviously is clearly having some issues, without Martinez. So, yeah, I think Columbus is just, taking advantage of that, and they're scoring goals, and they look good. They're surprisingly good. And, you look at them on paper, they're not, they don't wow you, but, there is some quality players in that side. So I think, it's taking advantage of that.
Oh, yeah, I feel you. Nick, anything you want to add to
I think
Group B?
Obviously Columbus, they've gone the entire all the games, and they didn't concede a single goal, and that right there, Robert hit the nail on the head again. With they just scored more goals, and they did it here: 7 goals, 0 goals against, and they took advantage of a very weak group. And Atlanta, as y'all went on to tangent about, have been just absolutely poor without Josef Martinez and Pity Martinez and Barco. Just could not fill that void. And he was just poor from top to bottom. very slow the other night in a game that they had to have. They just didn't have anything going, and I think that goes back on the head coach. It's like they weren't prepared almost. So you have to wonder where Frank DeBoer's head is at and what the management is thinking about him, because this is just not an Atlanta type performance of what we've seen since they've come into the MLS. So I think there may have to be some changes for Atlanta to get this going, because it just seems very unacceptable for the talent that they have on the team.
Yeah, no, for sure. They also been linked with superstars from Europe, obviously, just like Inter Miami. And yeah, they definitely need it, to be honest. So I guess we'll see what's gonna happen with them. And down to our last group, Group F, you got San Jose Earthquakes with 7 points, Seattle Sounders with 4 points, Chicago Fire with 3, and Vancouver Whitecaps with 0. Another group that has 0 points, which it seems to be like a trend, apparently. Robert, anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, San Jose surprised me a lot. They were pretty bad in the West last year. They might have even, if I remember correctly, they might have been bottom of the West last season. So I think you're finally starting to see the Matias Almeida effect, where, this is why they brought him in, to build a club culture, to build a team, to build a competitive team. And at least in this tournament, they've been very competitive. They're obviously leading the group. They have 7 points won from the matches they've played, and they've scored the most goals in the entire group. They've scored 6. So I think they look much better so far in this tournament, and this is an example of a team that struggled last season and is benefiting from this tournament format.
Yeah. What do you think is a problem for Whitecaps, Vancouver?
Everything. They're bad. They're bad. They're a really bad team, and this is a trend. It's not like they were good and they dropped off. This is a trend. They've been bad for several seasons now.
I would say, yeah, but I mean, obviously after Alphonso Davies left, Alphonso Davies really helped them a lot, and after he left, I don't know. It's kind of like that Rooney effect with DC United, to be honest. But Nick, anything?
Yeah, Vancouver just poor once again. Ever since they've come into the MLS, they just hasn't been many bright spots for Vancouver, and I question if Vancouver is a desirable spot for a lot of these guys to play, given that they have failed to attract much of any talent there over the years, and it didn't help that they had lots of injuries as well from the players they did have, and it just was all a wreck for them. And San Jose, very surprising at the top of the group, but again, they took advantage of a very poor group. And like I've mentioned with Orlando and like some of these other teams that we're not used to seeing doing so well, a tournament style playoff is very beneficial, because it allows teams to get hot at the right moment, and it's very different than playing a long, grueling season where there's ups and downs. You can get hot, and you never know, the right team could come out as the victor here.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I guess we'll go with now the. Oh, actually, so who do you think, we'll go one by one, is gonna win it all? Nick, what do you think?
I may be placing my bet here with my head, like rationally, but I'm going to go with LAFC. We talked in length about how they have defended very well, and they've had a lot of issues there. But I think the firepower that they have up front and in the midfield, and the coaching and the experience off of last year, I think it's very beneficial for LAFC. They're clicking on all fours right now up front, and I think that they're the team to beat. But I'm interested to see where Columbus is going to take this going forward, and also Portland, who I think has been pretty strong.
Oh yeah, for sure. Robert?
You know what? I'm gonna go with the home side. Even though I think if LAFC and Orlando City met up, I think LFC would win. I really think I'm gonna have to go with Orlando City here. Maybe they don't meet up, whatever happens, but I think with Orlando City being at home, I think it is a little bit of an advantage. As much as we know how bad the humidity is down here, I think for them it benefits because they're used to playing in it, and you've already seen, and I think it's pitiful excuses for bad teams, but Atlanta United, like Frank DeBoer was complaining about the humidity and nobody cares about 9:00 a.m. matches and stuff like that. It's like, get in line, buddy. Orlando City have been dealing with this heat and been dealing with afternoon games in the summer all the time. Just because you play indoors doesn't mean you have some, you don't have some competitive advantage over them. It's like, stop. But, I think Orlando City definitely benefit from that. They're used to the conditions. They're, technically at home. They're in their home city. And I just think that benefits them. And who wouldn't want, a some Disney magic, right? Right outside the Magic Kingdom
Yep.
to have some effect on their competition.
Oh yeah. Well, for me, it's obviously a little bit biased. I don't really support any other MLS team. I kind of moved to Orlando just because they had a soccer team at the time, from Fort Lauderdale. So Orlando City for me has a big chunk of my heart. I obviously want them to win, but and this is definitely their best chance to win. Because who knows what could happen once the season returns. Even though hopefully they keep obviously their form, and who knows, we might have a striker by then. But yeah, I definitely think that Orlando City would probably win. If not, I do think LAFC will probably be the other one if Orlando doesn't win. So I guess with MLS done, let's transition to Premier League. So obviously just about like 20 minutes ago, Liverpool left the cup. So Robert, we'll give you this one. Why do you think Liverpool is kind of choking, I would say, in the past few games?
I don't think they care. I think they're,
I feel the same.
half. Yeah, I think half their mind is in vacation mode right now. Not saying I don't think that's how Jurgen Klopp, coaches his teams. I think he wants them to be out there fighting. But I mean, they weren't really fighting for a perfect season anymore. They did lose to Watford, and I really think that they just, once they won the trophy, it was kind of like, who cares anymore? We've won everything we can. Yeah, you have the points record to break, but again, that's all stuff that can be broken anyways by a better team, a better season. That's stuff you're not awarded trophies for. So, as far as what they could win, they obviously were out of the Champions League and out of the FA Cup and stuff like that. So, I mean, once they won the Premier League, I think it's just, anything else you get is just gravy. And, obviously, I think the break probably wasn't great for them. They were in pretty good form, going out of the break. Minus the Watford result and stuff like that. But just since they've gotten back, it's just, yeah, they don't seem as good as they have. And I think a lot of that has to do with fatigue. And I think it has a lot to do with just, maybe not taking the matches as seriously. And also, again, just, having that break off. I think it takes some teams, some time to get back to form. And, you can either look good coming out of a break like that, or you can look bad, and they've looked, sort of mediocre.
Oh yeah, for sure. Talking about the game today, which obviously it was a 5-3 against Chelsea. But something interesting is that this man, I love him. I call him Captain America. He's scoring every single game, I'm pretty sure. Christian Pulisic, he has taken Chelsea by storm in the Premier League at the moment, to be honest, personally. Nick, what do you think about Pulisic just playing at Chelsea?
I mean, is it a stretch to say he's Chelsea's best player at the moment? I mean, you can see the minute he came on the field, I mean, he changed the game towards Chelsea's favor after Liverpool had been dominating for 60 minutes. It's really amazing the impact he's had, and he's made me a believer because when he first came up, I was typical, another American who's being hyped up and is going to go to Europe, and we'll see. Goes to Premier League, and I still was kind of, beginning of the year, Lampard wasn't playing him as much, and since this restart, he's been, as I said, he's Chelsea's best player. He's been their lightning rod up there, and what he did today, I mean, absolutely undressed. Trent Alexander-Arnold and Joe Gomez, two of England's best and two of Europe's best as well, all the way. And then the goal, the control, and the poise, and just everything, the patience to bring that down and just not rush it and take his time. And it was just in that moment, it's been amazing to watch Christian Pulisic lift Chelsea up and really guarantee them a Champions League spot, which they haven't clinched yet, but they are well on their way. And he's going to be a lightning rod for them to years to come. And Chelsea's building a very good team around him as well. Very young people and lots more names who could potentially join them as well. But a front three of Pulisic, and Werner, and maybe Tammy Abraham potentially staying in the lineup, or we'll see what they do at right wing. But obviously with Zayat coming in as well, Chelsea's going to be very, very hard to defend against going forward.
Yeah, no, for sure. And even, it's rumors, but who knows? I think Hybrid, right? Hybrid? What's his name?
Havertz.
Kai Havertz.
Yeah, I call him King Kai personally. That's what I like to call him. But yeah, no, if they bring Havertz, I really don't know what Chelsea can do.
I mean, it's already been NBC reported. They've already made their bid for Kai Havertz. So, and I think they're willing to. They've shown they're willing to spend money. Frank Lampard's willing to spend money to invest in this club, which was kind of stuck in the mud, I thought, under Conte and at the end and Sarri last year. But they're starting to build a real good flux of players. And Christian Pulisic, as you brought up earlier, has been the domino starting there right now.
Yeah, for sure. Chelsea kind of reminds me of that old Barcelona days, like 2009, where Barcelona at that time doesn't really have the money to spend on flashy players, so we have to bring our young players in, and that kind of made that generation pretty big, and that's kind of what Chelsea's reminding me of. When like bringing all the young kids, and it's working perfectly fine for them. Lampard has done such a good job for me, at Chelsea. So, I really thought that, Lampard was gonna do okay, but the fact that he's actually doing this well with these young talents, and when he actually can build a team how he wants it, it's gonna be pretty scary next season. Not gonna lie, for Liverpool, I would say. But so let's see. Man City. Let's talk about them for a second. What do you guys think they need to do? Or obviously, Leroy Sané already left. He went to Bayern. He didn't want to play for them anymore. What do you think they need? Because obviously, center back position. I forgot the young Spanish kid that's also linked to Barcelona. Do you guys remember his name?
Ferran Torres.
Yes.
Ferran Torres. Yeah.
Torres. Yes. He's obviously right now doing pretty good, I would say, for Man City. But what do you guys think Man City needs? Or maybe not anything, but what do you guys think they need to maybe, win the title again next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as transfers go, to improve them, obviously there was a 25-point gap at the time Liverpool won the title, or 23, because I think when they won the title, it was 25. It was 25. That was it was 25 because they lost to Chelsea. I think even with that big gap, it doesn't really seem that City's that far off. I mean, they spend money like it's toilet paper. Like, they just go through it like it's nothing. I mean, so if they get Ferran Torres from Valencia, who's like 19, 20, I think he's young, super young. I think he's got a lot of potential. Obviously, he's a guy like, maybe if you look at somebody like Phil Foden, or even somebody in the past, like Brahim Diaz, where you have to slowly edge him along and develop him and stuff like that. He's not ready for first team action, but he's not necessarily ready to start, and obviously we don't know what's going to happen with Riyad Mahrez. I don't know if they're going to let him go, or if they're going to keep him around. But I think, really the only thing I can see Man City really needing is a left back, because Ben Mendy is just not very good at all. He's pretty bad. And honestly, just a replacement for Nicolas Otamendi. I think the big rumor obviously is Kalidou Koulibaly from Napoli, but that would definitely fix a lot of their problems, because John Stones, just since coming from Everton, has not been good. He's constantly injured. Otamendi's, over 30 now. He's not that good. Even Laporte. I mean, Laporte's really, really good, but he's another one that you just have to worry about getting injured, and he does miss a lot of time. So I think getting a guy like Koulibaly in there definitely fixes a lot of issues, because he is a world-class center back.
Nick, anything?
I think that their best pressing need is a center back to put next to Laporte. Laporte obviously is one of the best defenders in the world when he's healthy, but he's had lots of injuries, and I think that what's setting the tone for them at center back is they may not think so, but that's their biggest need, because there's been reports coming in they're close to getting Nathan Ake from Bournemouth. And Nathan Ake, while a solid defender, is very young, and he obviously has played at Bournemouth, and he hasn't played in a big club before. So if they bring in Ake, they're going to be taking that chance of putting him next to Laporte, and obviously developing Garcia as well, who has shown flashes in the limited time that he's had a chance to be in there, because Otamendi and John Stones just have not worked out for Pep Guardiola. They've been two big money signings for him, and they've been dreadful. Otamendi more because of age, and John Stones just has not developed what you thought he would. Benjamin Mendy, another one. Pep has spent a lot of money on Benjamin Mendy. He's one of the highest paid defender fees, and it's hard to believe because when you watch Benjamin Mendy play, it certainly doesn't look like it. Yeah. And Zinchenko has not been trusted to play that position as well. And they need somebody that can really go on the flank, kind of like on the right, how they have Walker and Cancelo on the right, who really are good at joining the attack. It seems like they need somebody like that on the left, and Benjamin Mendy has not been great at that at all, or defensively for that matter. But to my point that I was saying, I think they may be thinking they want to replace Sane up front, because even though they have a very potent top three, Sergio Aguero is entering in his 30s now, and I'm not convinced. I don't think Pep is convinced that Gabriel Jesus is the guy to succeed him. Whether or not they invest in that position this summer or next will remain to be seen. I think it's more likely going to be next, when hopefully COVID is not as prevalent as it is now, and they can make a move more easier. But Ferran Torres, as y'all talked about, I think is at the top of their list, and he's definitely a Pep player, very good style from Valencia, and very creative and very young. And I think Man City is trying to get some more youth into this club around some of their players that are definitely in their prime, like De Bruyne and Mahrez, Silva, and Sterling.
Yeah, no, it's funny you talk about Jesus being, obviously a replacement for Aguero striker, but we seen him sometimes play at left wing. It's at least when he first came in, obviously not now or in a bit, but he could maybe, I guess if Pep really wants to, they could put him at left wing. I don't know how that would work personally, but I mean, hey, don't knock it till you try,
Yeah, and we don't, and I'm being kind of hard on him, but then again, he has scored, I think, for about 40 goals, I think, in his Man City career, and a lot of those have been coming off the bench. He hasn't gotten his turn to really play consistently. I'm just going off of what I've seen when Aguero's hurt or not playing, and if I'm going off in a recency bias, which is a good and a bad thing, against Arsenal the other day, he was absolutely dreadful up front, and that was against Mustafi and David Luiz. So that's where I'm going off with Gabriel Jesus. But Pep has definitely a large task in front of him, seeing what he can do with these guys, because he has a lot of talent at this club, and honestly, it's very disappointing to see that Man City can't win a trophy with the talent they have right now.
Yeah, I feel you. I kind of wanted to go to the next neighbor of Manchester, but actually, I just kind of remember. How do you guys feel about the ban being lifted for Man City for Champions League for the next Champions League season? Nick, what are your thoughts about that? Because kind of weird,
It was expected. I couldn't see FIFA. I could not see FIFA upholding it. The ban. It just seemed like from day one they were going to get it overturned, and it's my opinion on it is I'm not a fan of it. I think that the evidence was there, and it's just Man City lucking out of this situation. But for their fortunes, it's very good, because I'm sure Man City I think Pep was pretty concerned that some of the players, if they weren't playing Champions League football next year, they would potentially look for an exit out of the club. And I think that scenario is kind of gone now. But I think that it's just another thing Pep said. Pep went on record the other day saying that Man City's not happy with me. And I think that's where it's going to hurt the most, is Pep seems to be almost on the hot seat, kind of, which, he is, and he's been known to do this. He jumps around from big club to big club, and his stay is not for long. But you're kind of waiting for him to get that ultimate payoff, which is Champions League glory. And Man City have started out well this year in the Champions League, and they're in it. But that remains to be seen if they can really get on the run here and win, because their form right now, as of late, has been very inconsistent.
Oh yeah. For me personally, I didn't. It was expected the ban was going to be lifted, which is sad to say. Uh, but I personally didn't like it a lot just because of, that sets an example to all the other big clubs. Like just spend your money, doesn't matter, just go wild. We're not gonna, give you any problems about it, and that is just kind of scary to think about because we know how the NBA has turned with, like you can just make your dream team in a way, kind of how the Warriors were. But I don't know. Robert, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely upsets me. I mean, I have thought from day one that I really don't put a lot of stock into when teams like Man City or teams like PSG or even Chelsea, when they're funded by, all this money and stuff like that. And it's questionable money too. I mean, I've always been highly against that, but it doesn't shock me. I mean, we know a lot of the organizations in soccer are corrupt and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I wasn't expecting much of a ban to actually happen. But no, I mean they kind of got off on a technicality. I think it had to do with an issuing with a file date or something like that. They filed a
Yeah.
FIFA file or UEFA filed a complaint too long. They waited too long to file a complaint or something like that. So I mean, it's just it definitely raises the question now, does financial fair play actually exist? I mean, do we just do away with it now? I mean, does it matter? I mean, because now what stops, like you were saying, Manuel, with these big clubs? What precedent does this set now? Basically, you're telling a club like PSG, go out and spend. You're telling a club like Man City, go out and spend. Chelsea, I mean, Chelsea, if they get Kai Havertz, I mean, they're going to be spending almost 200 million after
Yep.
being banned last season from transfers. So, I mean, that's a lot of money being spent when so many other clubs that are self-sustaining that don't have these, sugar daddies, basically, these clubs that are self-sustaining, that they make their own money and revenue and stuff like that, they're not going to be able to spend. I mean, even Real Madrid, which is the most money-generating club in the world, even there, Florentino Perez came out and said, "We're not spending any money this summer." So, I
Yeah.
mean, it's pretty crazy.
Which yeah, no, it's definitely nuts to me because Barcelona also, they, we spent a lot, but really bad, sadly. Uh, but yeah, no. So let's go to the other side of the Manchester town, Manchester United. For me, they've been it's been interesting after Bruno Fernandes, like what he has done to that team. The fact that he's a star player obviously, but he's not like a big star. Like a Messi or Ronaldo. Like the fact that he came in, changed the team, the atmosphere. Even Pogba wants to stay, which I thought he was just gone already to Madrid, to be honest. Pogba actually wants to sign a new 5-year contract with Man United. The fact that he's able to change all of this just with that signing, like, what do you think, Nick? Like, what do you think is Manchester United's future?
They have an identity now. They've struggled for years, man, to really get an identity. And Bruno Fernandes comes over. It's crazy. One player made that much of a difference. You get a class player like that in an attacking position, it has made everyone better. All of a sudden, Anthony Martial is no longer inconsistent. He's scoring
Mm-hmm.
bangers every single game, and
Yep.
it's crazy. And Mason Greenwood, I mean, wow. I mean, it's again, you want to be careful. It's like I don't want to hype up another United youngster, but I mean, he looks like he really looks the part, and he's one of
Oh,
England's
yeah.
brightest and the world's bright young stars for that matter. And Rashford on the left, and it's like this is a team that looked like they were absolutely going in after Jadon Sancho, and I think it's like they are. But I think that I wouldn't be surprised to see them start moving their needs to other spots, although they need that squad depth because Bruno Fernandes has and Paul Pogba being in the middle mask a lot of issues that United have, and they just haven't whenever. And so they look very exciting when those guys are in there and everybody's getting theirs in the front. But when those guys are not on the field, they've been really poor. And neither Fred or McTominay or Mata, these guys just have not been able to duplicate the success. And there's such a drop off in quality from the bench, whereas a Liverpool, a Man City just don't have that problem. And I think that's what's really
Right.
holding them back. So I think going forward, they're definitely going to have to invest in a lot of squad depth and really rid some of the weeds out, like Lingard and Pereira, especially. I think they're at 1-2 on the list. You got to I don't need to see Lingard or Pereira on the bench next season for Manchester to take them serious. And you're going defensively. It's been very, the stats show that they've been very good defensively, but when you watch with your eyes, it's very questionable. You never know what you're going to get out of Harry Maguire. He's the gift that keeps on giving. He's 1 minute he looks like he's worth 100 million. The other minute he looks like he should be playing for a relegation team. It's something. And Lindelof and Bailly also very inconsistent. There's a lot of inconsistent players at United, but speaking to Bruno Fernandes specifically, what he has done for this team is give them an identity and a future and a hope to go forward that they can compete with some of the big guys because as you know, since January they've only dropped a game in the Premier League, and that's encouraging for United. But again, we've seen this with United. They go on hot runs, and a lot of it is just fool's gold. So I'm kind of cautiously optimistic with United next year. But as you said, keeping Paul Pogba and getting him invested into the club and happy again is a big plus for them.
Yeah, for sure. One of the worries for me from Manchester United that I have that it's been happening since the last World Cup in 2018. David De Gea, it's looking kind of funky. I don't know. It's looking like he needs to find himself again, and I don't know what's gonna happen to David De Gea. I know obviously he's gonna stay. Obviously, they're gonna trust him and everything, but I just hope he can find his form really soon, because De Gea is definitely one of the big savers for Manchester United, I would say. But Robert.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point what you brought up with David De Gea. I mean, he's definitely been really well. Beside him and Maguire, I think, just considering how much they've spent on Maguire, they're spending Virgil van Dijk levels of money on him. So, I mean, the fact that he's been so inconsistent, I mean, he looked awful against Chelsea. I mean, he looked terrible in the FA Cup semifinal. So, but besides him, I mean, yeah, David De Gea has not looked good at all this season. He's only like 30. He's not that old. I mean, for a goalkeeper, some of these goalkeepers play till, I mean, if you're like Gianluigi Buffon, you play, when you're 40 still. But, I think with them, I think they're probably going to wait a year. And if David De Gea's form continues to dip, if he has another bad season, I think they're probably going to get Dean Henderson from Sheffield United. I think that's probably who they're looking at. So, that's probably the solution to their goalkeeping problems, is just to get another keeper if David De Gea doesn't find that form again. But yeah, I mean, a lot of what Nick said. I mean, Bruno Fernandes has been good since coming over. He does score a lot of penalties, but he also wins a lot of those penalties himself. So, that definitely helps. But no, I think just the revelation of the front three. I mean, under Louis van Gaal, for example, even before Jose Mourinho came to Manchester United and before Ole Gunnar, I think they just had so many problems scoring. Martial came over at 18, 19 years old, and he's 24 now, and he's still, so young. And, now he's finally finding that quality and form. And Mason Greenwood's, 18, 19? He looks great. Marcus Rashford looks great. So I think it's just, them finally putting it together. And, they're basically saving Ole Solskjaer's job, because I really think, had they fell out of even Europa League this season, the way they were going earlier, I think they probably would have sacked them.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like you said, just like Nick said, I don't want to hype another young English player, but Mason Greenwood looks, I like him a lot. Mason Greenwood just looks out of this world, to be honest. Hopefully, he can, stay how he is, develop. Unlike someone I'm gonna throw under the bus, Ousmane Dembele, but yeah. So this is kind of interesting, because obviously they're filming a documentary for Spurs, Tottenham, and what do you guys think? They came from last season, Champions League finalists, I would say by luck, to be honest, and now they're like 7 or 8. Where are they? Like, for sure. Yeah, they're in 7th place right now in the Premier League table. What do you think is their problem? What do they have to do? What does Jose Mourinho have to do to fix Spurs, even though they're usually the laughing stock of the Premier League, I would say.
I think Jose Mourinho is a lot of their problem. I think football. He is a very accomplished manager. He's got a lot on his resume, and unfortunately, I just feel like I don't know if the game has passed him by, if that's the right thing to say. His team just doesn't look motivated. They don't look tactically right, and I don't think he's getting the best out of a lot of his players. And a lot of it is made that Harry Kane situation, his dip in quality this year, and a lot of the injuries, and questioning if he really wants to stay and be a part of Mourinho's Tottenham going forward. I don't really know how much longer Mourinho really has on Tottenham with Tottenham. I don't. As next year they start laying an egg, 2 or 3 months in the Premier League, I think he's gone. So what does Tottenham need to get better at? They've got to definitely get some youth into that system, I think, in the defense, because Vertonghen and Alderweireld are in their 30s now, and they're not going to be at this club forever. And you've seen a dip in quality already in Vertonghen and Alderweireld, and they've got to get a more consistent right back, because Serge Aurier has just not been the guy that they need on a back line. He has not been a guy they can rely on. And there's just a lot of issues at this club right now. And, I question if a lot of players are going to be sticking around. Obviously, I said Harry Kane. Son's name has been thrown out into the transfer mill for a long time. But it's going to give an opportunity for guys like Bergwijn to step up. And a guy that really needs to step up is Dele Alli. He hasn't looked like himself for at least 2 years. He's been very poor the last 2 seasons. And it hasn't really changed under Mourinho. So I think for me, the problem is Jose Mourinho and him trying to figure out how he can get these guys to play a better style of football, because it's not exciting at all by Tottenham, and they just can't get out of their own way.
Oh yeah, it's funny how you actually think. You said that Son could maybe leave Spurs, which if somehow, some way he's listening, hey, Barcelona, hey, we're looking for a winger, I will love you here if you want to come, But Robert, what do you think of Spurs?
Yeah, I think a lot of what Nick said is exactly their problem. I don't necessarily know if it's all Jose Mourinho. I mean, definitely his stint at Manchester United was not great. He did win them some domestic cups, but as far as their form in the Premier League, as far as their form in the Champions League, it just was really non-existent. And I think, really with Jose Mourinho, I think he just plays such a different style, and Spurs don't have, the defense to really play that style. Like Nick mentioned, Vertonghen and Alderweireld are just not, they're just not young guys anymore. I think they could definitely see Vertonghen leave this summer. I think there's been rumors of him going to even like Manchester City as like a backup in that Otamendi role. But, again, Aurier is another one. I think it's funny that, Kieran Trippier had a bad season last year, and, now he's completely turned around at Atletico, and they're stuck with Serge Aurier, who's been really just poor. And then, again, it comes a lot with just disappointing players. Like Giovanni Lo Celso's played well this year, but, Eric Dyer's useless. I think he's a guy that needs to be gone. He needs to go big time.
I feel bad for him.
Oh yeah, I do too. But yeah, it's time to go. And I think a lot of things, I think it's players that they let walk. I mean, I think Victor Wanyama, could never stay healthy, but he was a big part of that, a big part of that midfield being good. And I think even more than that was Moussa Dembele, who, ended up going to China. I think, losing Moussa Dembele, he was one of their best midfielders. I think losing him hurt a lot, and they really haven't recovered from that, even though, they do have Lo Celso, who, was great last season in La Liga for Real Betis. But again, it's just a lot of inconsistent players. You have Kane always injured. You have Dele Alli, who's always injured. And then when he's actually healthy, he doesn't perform, He's, Nick talking earlier about, you don't want to hype up English players. There's your perfect example of a guy that was hyped up, as an English player. But, I think they have a lot of quality in their side. They just need something more. And I don't know. They're kind of rudderless right now. And it's funny because I think even with like a Chelsea loss over the weekend, I think they can still make Europa League. So, there's still a chance for them to get into some European football. But, going from a top four club to, bottom 5 and potentially not making even Europa League next season is a huge dip in quality.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
and kind of like Harry Kane, like I was saying, like Mourinho said he's second to no one as a striker. And like I asked both of you, and I think we both know the answer. If he's second to no one as a striker, why would he be playing for Spurs?
No.
Yeah.
Why would he be
And
playing for
also,
Spurs? He's not.
he clearly does not watch Robert Lewandowski, but or
Uh,
Karim Benzema.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. That's part of what I was saying with Mourinho. I think his antics and just the things he says, it's like yeah, you're putting so much support behind your guys, but it's just so. I think he's outgrown it. I really have, and it's like Harry Kane is really like I think he's the guy that's kind of holding this team right now. Is like they really need Harry Kane so much to stay, and
Yeah.
if he leaves, I'm very concerned of where Tottenham's going to end up. I'm very concerned.
For sure. They could be the next Watford, but who knows? Obviously bottom. Which kind of, it's kind of sad for me because I love Adam Matraore and the fact that he's all the way down there. It's so sad. But talking about since we're in the Premier League, and it's gonna be soon. When is it gonna be? I'm pretty sure it's gonna be like August 1st. If I'm correct. The FA Cup final, Arsenal versus Chelsea. Arsenal. We know what David Luiz did against Man City. It's not a nice show. Definitely. I don't know. Just like always, David Luiz. He's either really insane or he's just pretty bad, sadly. But I love him to death because he's definitely a character, and the way he played, the semifinals of the FA Cup, to redeem himself from that performance that he did against Man City. What do you think Arsenal's chances is to win against Chelsea?
I think they're going to get smoked. I really do. I don't buy the Arsenal hype for 1 second because of how they played that game. Yes, they beat Man City. David Luiz and Mustafi had their best games of the season. But again, they have not played well all season long. And the reason why they played so well in that game, and the reason why they had been playing well a little bit, is they're putting 10 behind the ball. They have everybody coming back to play defense, and they're just waiting for that counterattack. That doesn't work in the long run. It just doesn't. And to me, it was just another example of the underdog coming out on top because they put everybody behind the ball and defended. And it was very hard for Man City to get creative in the final third because there was just nowhere to go. There was Arsenal players everywhere, and they took advantage of it. Yes, a lot of Arsenal players played well in that game, but guess what? They followed it up yesterday.
Oh yeah.
With losing to Aston Villa. That is Arsenal football in a nutshell. They get to a nice high and they go right back down to a low. And that's been the story of Arsenal. And that to me, it's going to stay that way. And Chelsea, on the other hand, outside of today against Liverpool, how come it's chinny ass? Liverpool showed up with the squad that they look like when they were winning the Premier League. Chelsea still, I thought, played decently, especially up front. I think Chelsea, if they start their A lineup and you got Pulisic in there and starting, which I believe he will be, and a Giroud probably will slot in there, who's been very good at holding up the line. Chelsea, I think, is going to just run right through that Arsenal defense that is just too inconsistent for me to believe in.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Just for any Gunners fan that were listening, kind of want to give them a little hope, but you definitely crushed them. Robert.
I always crush them.
Anything, Robert?
Yeah, Arsenal's done.
Okay.
No, it just, again, it's a one-off performance. I'm not about to say, oh my God, David Luiz is going to lead them to the FA Cup. We've seen stranger things happen, but that defense has always been questionable. The whole team's questionable outside of Aubameyang. And Leno. Bernd Leno's really good, but it's a battle of bad defenses. Chelsea's defense, as much as they want to invest in their forward line next season, their defense is still awful. Like Kurt Zuma's one of their starting center back, Andreas Christensen, Antonio Rudiger. They're just not starting quality center backs. They're very much rotation players, and especially for a club that spends as much as Chelsea, like they need to invest better in. Gone are the days of John Terry and Gary Cahill. Now it's really just a lot of guys that aren't number one center backs, and complete rubbish. And you have a $90 million goalkeeper in net, and like today against Liverpool, he doesn't even make attempts on the ball, and he
Yeah.
just doesn't even dive. He looks terrible. I mean, he's becoming a consistent issue. So until Chelsea really address their defense issues, I mean, I'm still not convinced they're gonna, totally compete for the Premier League next season. They'll be better, but I mean, at least for the FA Cup final, I think, like Nick said, fielding that A team, putting Pulisic out there, putting, Giroud out there and stuff like that. I mean, putting those guys out there, in a one-off, yeah, I think they can just. It doesn't matter the defenses. You can just outscore Arsenal because they're a better quality side than Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal's not convincing at all, even against Liverpool. Liverpool didn't play well that match, and Liverpool wasted so many chances. I mean, Liverpool could have scored so many more goals than one against Arsenal, and they didn't. So, I think it's just Arsenal right now is in a bit of luck, and I don't know. In the FA Cup, anything can happen, but I put my money on Chelsea.
And I'm definitely agreeing with both of you. It's actually kind of funny. This question is kind of just like randomly get into my head when we're all just talking about like almost every team in the Premier League. We say that the defense on a lot of the teams are actually pretty bad, and from what I noticed now, there's a lot of lack of center backs that are really like talented. You definitely you what's that word I'm trying to find? It's kind of like you give them confidence, like you trust them basically. What do you think it's the reason why there's not that many like key center backs in the Premier League?
I think like it could be the style of play in the Premier League. It's very up tempo, fast paced play, and I don't think it's like maybe there's not like good defenders in the Premier League. I just think the style of play is almost overwhelming to a lot of them, and it's kind of why like I think a lot of defenders, like world class defenders, stay away from the Premier League. Like for an example, like David Alaba has been fantastic for Bayern Munich in his career, and he gets linked with Man City, and then it's like he doesn't want to play in the Premier League. And that's been like the case with a lot of players, and I think they just don't want to play with that style. And you go to Spain, and it's very possession pace, and I think Spain has had great defense in that league, and I think that's why that you have that. Because I think there is these defenders that these teams are. I think they're much better than what they show, and I think a good example of that is Chris Smalling, because he was very erratic for United
and Roma.
But I think for Roma, though, he's actually had a bit of a rebirth, I think.
Yeah.
I think he looks much better in Serie A than he looks in the Premier League. And I think it's in many ways, it's really the land of the giants and anything can happen. So I think that may be the lack of quality in the center backs. But yeah, a lot of these big six teams outside of Liverpool, who probably found their second choice center back in Joe Gomez halfway through the year, consistently getting starts, even they had the problem getting a second one in there. So it's definitely a problem in the Premier League, but if I had to equate it to something, I'd say style of play.
No, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. Robert?
Yeah, I mean, I think actually Leicester's has a good defense too. Even without Maguire, I think Çağlar Soyuncu has actually been really good this year. I've been surprised. Like he came out of nowhere. I think he came out of Turkey. Like I forget which Turkish team he was playing for, but he's been really good this year. Johnny Evans has always been really underrated, even when he played for Man City. So I think they have a good defense. They're a weird team too. Like obviously they're a top 5 side right now, but it's kind of like they should be better with the talent they have on that team. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think there's not a lot of center backs out there, where in the Premier League where you would say like, oh yeah, they'd be starting for, any of the big clubs. But you don't see that. I mean, even in La Liga, the top 3 teams have, pretty good defense. Maybe Atletico doesn't. I think Atletico's style helps a lot more. I would never say, Felipe and Stefan Savic are world class center backs, but it's just the style of play. But yeah, I mean, it's just definitely, I think, style of play in the Premier League is just, it's always been sort of hard-nosed. It's always been sort of, now it's really turned into counter-attacking with Liverpool and stuff like that. And even their center backs make mistakes. I didn't think Van Dijk and Gomez looked great today, but, it's just, it's a faster Premier League now. And I think it's a lot harder for some of these center backs to stand out. I mean, there are not a lot of world-class ones, but they get the job done.
No, yeah, for sure. Liverpool in the past few games, I've been glad to see those games because at least I know Van Dijk's human, dude. I always thought Van Dijk was just a straight machine, No one can get past him, but these past games, I'm just glad he's human, But yeah. So let's go with La Liga real quick. Let's talk about, obviously, Madrid winning
Yay!
the league. Yeah, celebrate that. So what do you think was the success, Robert, that Madrid had? Obviously Zidane is not playing almost, I would say, the same way as when he used to coach Madrid before. He's playing a little bit more defensively, which it kind of like reminds me of the Jose Mourinho vibes, but not as much because at least Zidane attacks more. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it has to do with Zidane. I mean, it's almost a complete 180 from what they were last season. I mean, last season was arguably one of the worst seasons I've watched them in. I mean, they were awful last year. I mean, they went through three if you count Zidane, but they went through two managers. Lopetegui was terrible. Santiago Solari started off well, but just, I mean, wasn't the right choice either. And then obviously they got Zidane back. I mean, it hurt a lot losing Ronaldo and not replacing him. Obviously, that's the biggest issue. But I mean, even Eden Hazard did not play that much this season. I mean, he was injured for a good majority of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think it's just been everybody getting back to form. I mean, Karim Benzema again had close to 30 goals this season. In all competitions. Obviously, he had 21 in La Liga. Guys like Fede Valverde, I thought was fantastic this year when he played. Modric is back to form, even though he's like 36. Toni Kroos played great this year. Casemiro played great. Ramos was a machine at the back. I mean, he looked last season. Kroos and Ramos didn't look great, and they've both been amazing. Rafael Varane is still really good. Carvajal even had a bounce back season. Marcelo when he played. Ferland Mendy. I mean, Ferland Mendy was easily one of the he's been one of the best left backs in Europe this year. And then Courtois got a lot of flack from people last year saying, oh my God, I can't believe they got rid of Navas for this guy. And Courtois won goalkeeper of the season. I mean, he conceded 20 goals this year. That's it. And he's been great. So I think it's just been, they have a lot of depth. And, obviously Vinicius and Rodrigo are guys they can sort of dip into. They don't really have a starting right wing. I mean, Zidane, works this weird system where he doesn't make it a guarantee you're a starter. He doesn't start the same team, especially on the right. One day it's Rodrigo, one day it's Isco, one day it's Asensio, and he plays around with it, and he's really, really good at doing that. And, they almost don't need a starting right winger like Gareth Bale. They almost don't need, I think they're still going to get Mbappe, but they almost don't need that because they have so many depth rotation players that are quality that they can just inject it into the lineup, and Zidane makes it work. So, I think it's a mix of all of that. And obviously, Barcelona was not great this year, but, Real Madrid were, and they didn't lose one match, coming back to play. So it's big from them.
Oh, yeah. Like you said, I don't know what happened to Courtois, man. Like after he got subbed off from that Champions League game, it was Champions League, right? That he got subbed off for Areola?
This year or last year?
This year. Well, no, it was last year, obviously, because it was before.
Against Ajax?
I think so. Was it? That's when he got subbed in halftime?
Yeah, that's when they got knocked out. Yeah, that was a bad game.
No. But that was kind of his turnaround, I would say. Like, I don't know what happened to him mentally that day. I don't know if he was just crying, he joined a cult. Who knows what happened to him? But I really don't know what happened to that guy. That's not the Courtois I remember. That's like the Courtois that I saw in the World Cup. Yeah, that's the Courtois I remember now, and it's just nuts how good he actually he is now. But oh yeah, Nick, anything?
Yeah, Madrid, they've been fantastic. Especially as of late, they've really found their footing, and I think it's going to be really beneficial as they're getting towards Champions League, and definitely a leg that they have to show out against Man City. And I think if anybody's gonna come down from aggregate like that against Man City, going on the road, it's going to be Madrid at the moment. They're the deepest team in Europe, in my opinion, and I think it says a lot about Zidane's coaching and the talent they have that Hazard has been a non-factor most of the year. as Robert said, not a consistent presence on the right, but they've been so stifling defensively. Y'all just talked about Courtois and his revival as a goalkeeper, and Ramos, as he continues to get older, he's just so steady back there. He's still world class, probably 1-2 with Van Dijk, best center backs in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And Ferland, and they just make smart signings, very smart signings, man. It's Ferland Mendy, it's Rodrigo. There's so much depth and so much youth in there, and then you have the Modrics and the Cruces, Modric, who had a dip in quality last year after his Ballon d'Or victory. He has come back to life this year. Toni Kroos is just spectacular, and Casemiro. I mean, that midfield. I don't know if there's a better midfield in the world than those guys when they're all in the field together. And Hazard's back now, and you're very excited to see what he can do up front. And Karim Benzema, who has shown that given a team up front that he can lead without the presence of Cristiano Ronaldo. Not that I'm saying they would not gladly take him back, but Karim Benzema without Cristiano Ronaldo has been fantastic and has showed he is class as well. And I think we lost that a lot. We always thought he'd maybe been a poacher of Ronaldo for years and years and years, and he shows how classy he is every single time he goes out there. He's been neck and neck with Messi for best player in La Liga all year. Yeah. And especially of late, I think it's great to see him getting his recognition now as he enters his 30s. But Madrid, stifling, I think, is the word that I would say is defensively and in the midfield. They've just trapped everybody else, and they've also taken advantage of Barca. Barcelona has had their struggles this year, which I'm sure we'll get to, and that has also played a very very big part has played in Real Madrid. But not to take anything away from them because they've been excellent.
Yeah. Just transition from what you said. Yeah, let's talk about Barcelona real quick. All right. So big Barcelona fan here. We sucked pretty bad this season, I would say. Liga Setien has come in. We know that some people like to call Messi the little dictator. We know that players have some sort of power with the managers, just like Liga Setien said, in a press conference that. Sometimes it's not up to him. He didn't say it was specifically the players, but we all kind of know that it's kind of the players. What do you think is wrong with Barcelona? I want to ask you guys first before I take my take, because my take's gonna be interesting. But what do you guys think is wrong with Barcelona? What do they need to do to get to where I want them to be?
I think it's. Yeah, well, that's definitely a factor in it. I mean, yeah, they're an old team that keeps getting older. Like they also, I think a lot of it has to do I think Ernesto Valverde was really a scapegoat in a lot of it. But I think Bartomeu is really the problem there. It's just there's no investment in youth. La Masia is terrible compared to something like Castilla at Real Madrid. In producing, young talent. And I think with Barcelona, they don't spend wisely. I mean, yes, they brought in, a 19-year-old Ousmane Dembele, but he's never healthy and he's not a consistent starter. And they spent 100 million on him. And then they go and they get rid of a 23-year-old and Arthur, and they bring in Miralem Pjanic, who's almost 30.
I'm still crying about that, by the way.
Yeah. And I just don't. Forever. It's not. Yeah, it's not a wise move. And then, Vidal, that transfer never made sense, bringing in Arturo Vidal. The fact that Rakitic is still starting there, Busquets is getting up there in age. Umtiti's always hurt. Piqué's getting up there in age, and he's not that great anymore either. Jordi Alba too, Sergio Roberto. I mean, I think a lot of it too, outside of Messi, Suarez, and Griezmann recently. I mean, Griezmann was kind of a non-factor all season, but outside of Ter Stegen too, I think it's a really old team that doesn't have a lot of quality. Longley is really good, but it's a weird team. And even like you look at somebody like Sergio Roberto on the right. I mean, since Dani Alves has left, they have not had a perfect replacement for him on the right side, and that's a problem because Dani Alves dictated a lot of how that team's offense worked, and he was also really good defensively. So I think they miss a presence like him as well. So I think it's a mix of, like Nick said, they're old. I think it's a mix of not spending wisely. They spend very foolishly. Yes, De Jong is really good too, but there's a lot of old guys in there, and there's also, you question the head coach, you question, Bartomeu, and you just have a team that's kind of lost right now.
Yeah. Nick?
The one part that to me boggles me at Barcelona, and I'm gonna rip on the coaching here for a second, and I know this wasn't Setion's buying, it was Valverde's, but explain to me, and I know y'all won't be able to because there's no logic behind it. You're Barcelona, you're one of the biggest clubs in the world, and you go and spend money on a world-class striker in Antoine Griezmann. You spend over $100 million for him, and you decide not to put him at striker. You put him on the left all year long, and you expect him to play well, and then he doesn't play well, and you're saying he's a flop. He's not good anymore. No, that's coaching. That's bad coaching. Antoine Griezmann is still class. You want to know how I know? A few games ago, we started the experiment where we put Griezmann up front and we put Messi in the center attacking mid, and I think Griezmann scored 2 goals that game. Am I wrong?
2 or 1, but yeah, no, you're basically right.
Yeah, and it's just amazing, when you put world-class players where they actually play and they perform. And it's such a lost opportunity for Barcelona. How can you pair Antoine Griezmann after all these years with Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez, and then you put him on the left? And there's no reason for that, because if you've watched Barcelona play, their best left winger all year has been Ansu Fati. Listen, Ansu Fati is not better than Antoine Griezmann. That's not why he plays better than Griezmann in the games. He plays better than Griezmann because he's a left winger. Griezmann's not. The style is not the same. Griezmann needs to be up front in the central role where the offense flows through him. He's never been a runner on the outside like that, and it just boggles my mind that they've spent months testing Antoine Griezmann out there. It did not work under Valverde, and Setien is guilty as well, because he continued to do it, and it's too little too late to move him in there. And Barcelona, as I touched on and Robert touched on, the ages of all these players, it's baffling what the board there is doing. They're just bringing in players. They bring in players who are 29, and then it's like, it's what they do, and then they're 33 before you know it, and we have this. And there's no eye for the future right now outside of Fati and Puig, who Puig, I thought, when they keep putting him in there, he's also been pretty electric, and that just shows you that's what they need. They need some youth in that team, and that is what Setien is going to have to really focus on to get Barcelona where they need to be.
No, yeah, for sure. All right, so I guess my take now. Yes. Oh my God, Ricky and Ansu. I love both of them. They are the kids that I hope they stay their whole life here, because they're so good. The reason why I'm not crying too much about Arthur, which I still am. I'm not gonna lie, but Ricky basically plays at Arthur's. He obviously plays in the midfield, but Ricky plays a little bit more like an Iniesta, where he goes forward. Arthur kind of plays a little bit more back, which he is amazing when he plays back. When he holds the ball, he's not afraid. And we really needed someone like that, but we also needed someone to go forward. As you could tell, Vidal, every time when he was on the pitch, the man was scoring like if he was a striker. Sometimes when Suarez wasn't even there, or Braithwaite, Vidal legitimately just made the runs forward and just scored like if he was a number 9, which is, I have a feeling that's the reason why they got Prince Boateng last season, which I don't know why they did, but I mean, I guess that's cool and whatever. But Vidal has been nuts, even though he's probably going to leave to Inter, or who knows where he's going to go, but he's probably going to leave, to be honest. And, like you said, Robert, the precedent, Bartomeu is definitely one of the reasons why Barcelona is just really bad at the moment. Hopefully next year elections 2021, big precedent coming through. Hopefully, we bring Xavi as coach. Who knows?
Hopefully they keep Bartomeu around.
No. I don't want that clown here. Right? I don't want that clown here.
Keep it as it is.
No, I don't want that clown here. But to me personally, we have to basically almost wipe the whole team. Like you said, Griezmann does play better as striker, but there were games. The thing is, he plays better as strikers, like in Atletico, with another striker. He cannot play by himself. We tried that before. Griezmann cannot play by himself. I just don't know why. but when we play him by himself, he kind of just did the same thing. But the thing is that his playing style is just like Coutinho, another flop, and Messi. He kind of just drops back and feeds at the same time. He doesn't always want to score. He also wants to create. And that's the reason why Coutinho also flopped, because that's his role. Messi is the one that's going to keep that role, and Coutinho just has to adapt. That's basically what happened to Griezmann. Griezmann has to adapt for Messi to succeed, I guess. But now that we have two strikers, Suarez and Griezmann, and now Messi a center attacking mid, which hopefully they stay that for the Champions League, but we'll get on that later. Griezmann has been. Now I see why we signed him, though. I don't know, but like I'm just kind of glad that at least he's doing something for the team, I would say. But Ricky, sadly Arthur left. Ricky's great, Frankie's great, but we have these old guys, Jordi Alba, that we need to replace. Alba has been linked to us. Though we're not gonna obviously pay his high wages, so he's probably just gonna renew with Bayern. Junior Firpo hasn't been the best, and he's probably going. Apparently, he's rumored to go to Inter for Lautaro Martinez. Apparently, they're valuing him for 41 million, which, not gonna lie, if that's what they're gonna value him, they can take him. But and also Robert, as you said, a right back, we have no one. It's Dani Alves was basically your guys' Marcelo. The man was just
very much.
It's just nuts. Like obviously you guys dictate when Marcelo was in his prime, and I mean, to be honest, he's kind of still is, but Mendy's pretty good. He dictates the left side, and the man just owns it. So Dani Alves was basically we kind of just counter you guys, I guess, back in the day with just us owning the right side, and you guys just own the left side. So Dani Alves is basically Marcelo on the opposite side. We don't have that, sadly. We have Semedo, which he has been kind of iffy, I would say. He has his great games, and then he has his bad games. So, I mean, I don't know. And obviously, we have in another year, after the loan is done, we have Emerson that hopefully maybe, he's been doing pretty good at Real Betis, and maybe Emerson will come hopefully and fix some stuff, though we kind of need it kind of sooner. So we'll see how that's going to happen. And we have two young players coming in, Pedri and Trincao, which I'm excited for. I love Pedri. I feel like Pedri is going to be, oh man, I hate hyping players like this, but Pedri is going to be like Mbappe, Messi, Ronaldo level, I think. That's he looks, I just love him. But, we're bringing these young players, but we're also taking the youth out, aka Arthur. And now that, Pjanic is coming, I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest. It's kind of just like the Wild West at Barcelona. It's kind of like drama every other day. And
wait till they make that swap deal between Coutinho and Matteo Guendouzi. You see that rumor?
Oh my God, no, don't say that, dude. I'd rather keep Coutinho. No.
I'm here for it. Let's see it. Let's just burn it up, man.
No. You know what? I'll take that Junior Firpo 41 million evaluation. Apparently, I don't know what Inter Milan is doing and what they think it is, but hey, you know what? I'll take it. But yeah, no, Barcelona definitely have a lot of things to work on. Quique Setien was not our priority coach. It was obviously I forgot his name. What was the Netherlands coach? Do you remember? He's a center back. He's a Netherlands center back. Used to play for Barcelona. I don't know why you don't remember. Koeman. Yeah.
Oh, Ronald Koeman. Yeah.
Yes, Ronald Koeman. Yeah, Ronald Koeman was obviously our priority. He obviously didn't want to come because of the board. Then we went for Xavi. Xavi didn't want to come because of the board. And then we asked Pochettino. Yikes. Because obviously, because he doesn't really like Barcelona, but who knows? Maybe this next season, he's gonna just take that rivalry away from him, and he might just coach for one season. Because I don't know if Quique Setien if they bottle the Champions League I have a feeling they will. Maybe not against Napoli, but definitely against Bayern. I have a feeling Quique Setien is definitely gone. So yeah, I guess that's my little rant.
He was. Wasn't he like basically just the holdover coach anyway? Like, is there anybody in Barcelona's camp that really thinks that he was ever going to be the long-term answer here?
To be honest, not gonna lie, I always liked Quique Setien's style of play. Back in the day, like a year or 2 years ago, even when Quique Setien was still at Real Betis, a lot of our players really respected him. Even Sergio Busquets after the game, I think we got defeated that game. I don't remember, but either that or it was a really close game. But even Sergio Busquets, a lot of our players signed their jerseys and gave it to him. because we really respected him. And to be honest, I love when he used to be at Real Betis. Obviously, it's not the same story when he's here at Barcelona, which I also said in the beginning. That's probably maybe because the players have a lot of power and the coach doesn't really have too much power. That also could be the problem. But I also do, I also blame the players' mentality. Like Messi came out and said that, it's not just the coaching. It's definitely just it's us, and we need to, look like we actually want to play the game. Which the next game, I guess we did. Thank God they answered something, maybe a little hope. But yeah, but I have a feeling that's still not enough, But Kike Setien, I would say, even though he did bad, I'm just glad they took out Valverde. I know he's gonna secure the league for us.
Oh yeah.
It was still the better choice, I would say. But if Valverde stayed here, we would have still failed everything. But we would have. Well, I guess we still have the Champions League, but we would definitely not have a chance to do anything, I would say. But yeah. So that's, I guess, my little Barcelona rant, and let's go quickly to Champions League. We're really close, and I'm so happy. I'm so hype about it. We're like 2 weeks away? I'm pretty sure, maybe 3. I'm pretty sure we're 2.
Yes, man.
Yeah.
2, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, I can't wait. Like, I just want time to just fast forward real quick. Like, okay, so I would say personally, we're gonna go game by game, but I have a feeling, which PSG have been wanting this trophy for a while, and the way they got the road to the final, like already, like the game set, man, do PSG have I would say 90% chance. No, that's too much. Let's put 80% chance to win it all. And finally, wasting all that money just, everywhere, like 180 for Mbappe, 250 for Neymar, and they're just blowing it everywhere. It's finally maybe about to pay off. So what do you guys think about PSG's chances of, going to the final, which looks pretty highly, and winning it all?
I think they got to be worried about Atalanta first.
Oh,
Atalanta. Right. I think they may be over. I think we may be overlooking Atalanta because Atalanta has been red hot of late, and they just can't stop scoring. They've scored most goals in Serie A. I think that the Serie A has seen Atalanta did this year. I mean, they just can't stop scoring. They are the style of play they play with is just fantastic, and the player they have in Zapata and Gomez and Ilicic has been running through those 3 guys all year long. And I think Atalanta may shock Paris. They really do, because Paris is known not to show up in these big tournaments, and you said it could be their time. That remains to be seen, and they're going to have a long layoff. I know they've been playing some exhibitions, but it hasn't been very competitive football.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm very interested to see that, and nobody's going to question that Paris is the more talented team and should win the game. But I think Atalanta could potentially stand in the way. But if Paris gets by Atalanta, obviously the side of the bracket they're on is very, very favorable, and they should have a pretty good ride to get to the final. Obviously, any team that's got Mbappe and Neymar and Icardi and Marquinhos in the back and so many other great players on that squad. That is going forward, you're going to have a chance on every game to win. So I think PSG, they have a favorable lie, but I think Atalanta is going to be a team that's going to be very tricky for them to handle with.
Yeah, for sure. Robert?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd put PSG's chances a little bit lower than that, just because Bayern has been so good this year, and there's like nobody stopping Robert Lewandowski right now. I mean, he's the Champions League leading goal scorer. He's been phenomenal this year. I mean, the whole team has. It's just a really good team. Obviously, the Bundesliga is not very competitive outside of Bayern, but Dortmund was holding it for a while. But no, I mean, Bayern is just levels above so many other teams in Germany, and I think they're probably the favorites, I would say, up there with PSG. I know not to count out Real Madrid as well. I mean, obviously they have to get past Man City, but either of those clubs as well. But yeah, I mean, Atalanta could surprise them. They've had a really good season. They're having the Ajax season, where Ajax got into Champions League last season, and their young guys beat Real Madrid and went all the way to the semifinal and played Tottenham. I think they're having that type of season, Atalanta. I mean, Ilicic has been great. I mean, they're just a really solid team. But yeah, I mean, PSG, like Nick said, I mean, it's been a long break for them. They haven't played since March. Liga 1 got canceled. Their biggest disadvantage is that they haven't played football in, what is it, going on 5 months now? I mean,
Yeah.
Liga 1 got canceled the end of March, and, the Premier League, the Bundesliga, and La Liga all continued. So they're the only one of the big five and Serie A continued. So they're the only one of the big five leagues that didn't continue. So they're at a disadvantage there, I think. So, obviously it's the Champions League. Anything can happen. I think PSG should get by them, but, it's definitely not a guarantee for PSG, I don't think. And, secretly, as somebody who does support Real Madrid, I hope, Mbappe loses because I want Mbappe next summer. So hopefully that'll convince him to leave PSG. But anything can happen. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's 80% chance for PSG personally.
Oh yeah, no. I want to correct myself again. I meant like 80% chance to reach the final, or like 90, not win at all. Because I have a feeling.
I get you.
No, but I said it wrong, so I see what you guys meant. But no, I truly think that Bayern's probably gonna win it all. But okay, so let's go game by game real quick. Bayern against Chelsea. You guys think that Chelsea is gonna come back?
No way.
Really?
Bayern's clicking. They're clicking on all cylinders. They've been like that all year. They've been like that since the restart. Bayern, to me, is the favorite, I think, of everyone left in the Champions League. And as much as I like Chelsea up front, we've talked about it on the podcast about their defensive woes. Robert Lewandowski is going to be staring them down. Thomas Mueller, Serge Gnabry. It's really, I don't think it's going to be competitive. And I think Bayern, not only will they get through Chelsea, I think they're going to run through most of the teams in this Champions League, because I think more so than every team sitting here, they're the one team that I think is playing right now with the least amount of flaws in their game. And I think that's very beneficial at this time, and they're red hot.
Oh yeah. Now, would I change your mind if I told you? Well, I'm pretty sure Werner's gonna play that game. But what if you guys get King Havertz?
What if what?
Would it change your mind if I'm pretty sure Werner's gonna play? But what if King Havertz comes to the team? Would it change your mind a little bit or not really? So.
I don't think so. No, I think Bayern is still. I think they're just such class right now. And like I said, they're clicking on all cylinders, and I really don't know who's going to stand in their way. And Lewandowski, I think he's just scoring at will right now every game, and I think that's going to continue in the Champions League.
Yeah, I'm just glad Lewandowski never went to Madrid, because that would have been a nightmare. That's all.
Oh, I remember that. I remember when that transfer was supposed to happen.
Yeah, you guys can have Harry Kane if you guys want, But no, Lewandowski, oh my God, dude. Oh God, no, I don't even want to imagine him in Madrid. Oh, all right. Robert, what do you think Bayern against Chelsea?
I mean, Chelsea's got to show they can stop conceding goals. I mean, they're already down 4-0. I mean, if they concede any more, it's already a blowout. I mean, it could be 10 times worse by the time they play the second leg. So I have no faith in Chelsea coming back. I mean, could they score a couple goals on them? Sure. Are they going to make a full comeback? No. And they got to, prevent them from scoring further. And I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. As much as I think, kind of know, like Bayern's probably going to win it all and definitely going to win that game. That 4-0 kind of reminds me of Barcelona against, PSG. Good time, good remontadas back in the days. We don't do that no more. Now we do it against us. So yeah. But yeah, if it happens, I'll be kind of hyped just because of the story, history. It's going to be interesting. But will it happen? No, definitely not. Probably not. So yeah, next game, Barcelona against Napoli. Oh, yikes. That's going to be an interesting one. Robert, what do you think about
that? I mean, I can't see Napoli beating Barcelona. I don't think Napoli's not a very good side this year, especially in Italy. I mean, the addition of Manolas alongside Koulibaly has been, I think, detrimental to them. They haven't looked really good together. So their defense is a little bit suspect, I think. The whole team is. I mean, they definitely have quality on that Napoli side. Insigne, of course. Zielinski. Mertens. A lot of quality on that team. But compared to even Barcelona, who's struggling, I don't see them beating Barcelona in the second leg. So I think Barcelona advances.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear. But you know what? Every time we go against Napoli, I always have that little flashback 2 seasons ago in the Champions League. You know that center back Napoli has now that he used to play for Roma? Yeah, that guy. Manolas? It gives me the flashback sometimes. Who knows what could happen in that game?
I was gonna pick Barcelona, but I mean, you're bringing up good points for me to pick Napoli now.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, I just hope, even if we do win, I love Chucky Lozano a lot. I think he's a great player. I met him and all that. We talked for a bit. I hope it's a big game, like a big scoring game for Barcelona, just so he can score a few goals. Because I really want him to score a few goals. I feel bad for him. The coach at Napoli, the coach kind of doesn't really like Chucky because he has an attitude and stuff, which I don't blame him, to be honest. But I personally think Barcelona will win barely if Manolas doesn't pull a miracle again. But yeah, Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, all jokes aside, Barcelona, despite what we say about Barcelona, they are the better side than Napoli. Napoli have not been strong at all year in the Serie A. And there is a lot of concern going around, with people thinking Napoli's going to win. And, Messi said, if we play like this, Napoli's going to beat us. That may be true, but I'm really banking in the Champions League here. Very important game. You're playing an inferior team opponent. You have the much better players despite the age that we said these players. And it's Lionel Messi in a Champions League game. I mean, I think his track record speaks for himself in the Champions League. And as he's done it all year, and while that's not sustainable for the future, Lionel Messi has that ability to lift up an entire team and drag them to the finish line. And I think at the worst case, I think that Barca's back four will be able to hold off Napoli up front, and I think that Messi at the worst could drag this team, even if the rest of the team is not holding their weight.
Yeah, because we the first leg we seen how Mertens and Insigne kind of wreck our right half of the defense side. That was Mertens had a really nice goal, I'm not gonna lie. But that definitely will be interesting. Obviously at that time Semedo wasn't really feeling himself. Now he kind of is. Just hope that kind of changes. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with all of you guys. Thank God. So I guess we're going with Real Madrid against Man City. Could Madrid come back and not once again get knocked out? What do you think, Nick?
If anybody's going to do it, like I said, it's going to be Real Madrid. With the way they've been playing, with the confidence that they have, the team that they have, I think in the way City can be really erratic sometimes, I think Madrid is going to have a very good chance to win this game and get through on aggregate as well. The thing is City is definitely going to bring their A team out. It's going to be, I expect everybody to be in there that should be in this lineup, and I'd be interested if I believe it'd be Mahrez on the right that Pep would go with over Bernardo, and obviously everybody else is going to be in there. We'll see if Aguero will be up front. I believe he will be as well, and Real Madrid is going to bring all their guns too to the table. So I think talent-wise, both starting lineups are pretty even. Besides the midfield, I think the midfield, despite De Bruyne there, I think Madrid has the advantage there, and it's going to be how well can they stop De Bruyne from showing his creativity rather in the final half. But because Madrid has been very stifling, and that game, that first leg was 5-6 months ago, it was a long time ago. Yeah. Madrid were a different side back then. They weren't that time. They weren't exactly playing strong, and now they've just been, like I said, they've been on all cylinders lately. And defensively, it's just so good. And I think that they're going to have a real good shot. And I'm going to take that risk and say Madrid is going to be able to get the 2 goals on the way and send Man City out, because that just feels like the way it's going for Man City. I think morale is down around the club, and I think that's at the moment coming off what's been going on recently. And I think that Madrid can take advantage of that.
No, yeah. I think, to counter a little bit, because about the game, obviously, Madrid have been nuts since they came back from the break. Before the break, they were basically another Barcelona. It was kind of like inconsistent everywhere. But now I don't know what happened to them. They got relaxed. Zidane put them on an insane training. Who knows that no one knows about. But they've been back to the Madrid we all know. And the thing is about Madrid, Ramos is their key player. Casemiro is their key player. I know Ramos has a red card. He cannot play that half, that other leg. And if I'm correct, Casemiro can't neither. I know Ramos can, but I don't remember about Casemiro. I think it was Casemiro. So that means that Ramos and Casemiro won't play against Man City, which is one of the key players for Real Madrid. We've seen how Madrid sometimes play without Casemiro, and sometimes it's not that good, I'm not going to lie. And we've seen them again without Ramos sometimes. And I don't know. I personally think that Man City is probably going to win just because of that. If it was Madrid's full team, oh yeah, probably another remontada coming. That's all I'm saying. But
yeah, like it's been so long. Like, not to cut you off, it's been so long since you said that. I remember it's all coming back. You know, the Ramos, the red card at the end of that game, and you know, his importance is big. And you said Casemiro's, and it'd be interesting to see who Madrid slots into those places. You know, maybe Valverde will get a shot in the middle for Madrid. I mean, defensively after Ramos there, I mean, does it go to Nacho? Does it go to Mateo? You know, that is actually a really big. That's a great point you made, and you know, I'm pushing for Madrid to get through, and I love that. So I'm still going to stick with Madrid on this one because I'm just pushing for them to get through really bad here, but that's going to be very tough. It'll be something. If Madrid wins it, it's going to show just the excellence of Zidane and Chimoy.
No, yeah, I feel you. Hey, what's it called? Hey, Pep, you know, show them who the real, you know, Baldy manager is. My man Pep. All right. That's all I'm saying. Robert, what do you think?
You know, I'm gonna have to go with the biased take. I think, you know, Real Madrid being down 1 goal, you know, it is two away goals for Man City. I thought early on they were saying that they weren't gonna prop up away goals because for some reason, but I think now that they're actually gonna play in Manchester. I think the away goal rule is in effect still. So yeah, so you know, technically they're down 2 goals if they want to win, but you know, being down 2-1 in the fixture, I mean, I think even without Ramos, I think this is a time where Real Madrid really need to, you know, step up, and you know, they really need to have their best players play their best. I mean, obviously Benzema, no doubt about it, has been playing very well. You know, I think Eder Militao is going to take, you know, obviously be in there for Ramos. I think he's a good defender, but obviously not having Ramos, you lose, you know, the potential of a goal. You lose the potential of, you know, a great penalty kick or something like that. You lose a little bit not having your captain back there, and I think that's definitely going to hurt them. You know, it also has a lot to do with, I think Casemiro is eligible to play, so that shouldn't be a problem. But you know, guys like Hazard, you know, Hazard has to step up, and I think, you know, being injured for so long and really not getting into a groove, I think this is where he needs to break out. Needs to be his performance where he shows, you know, why he's worth 100 million euros. I think this is where he shows it, and I think they can come back against Man City. You know, Zidane and Real Madrid know the Champions League very well. They know how to make a comeback, and you know, even without Ramos, I think they can. I think they've been playing so well and so locked in that, you know, even though Ramos has been a big part of that, I think they can do it even without him. Now, but that being said, I mean, you have a very good Man City side to play. You know, obviously Kevin De Bruyne ran all over them in the first leg. He was fantastic in that first leg, so you have to stop him. But you know, it's an interesting match. It's probably the most interesting match, I think, for this next leg. But I'm gonna have to pick Real Madrid, and you know, hopefully I'm right. You know, it's definitely not going to be as embarrassing as a loss as it was against Ajax, hopefully. So, you know, hopefully they move on.
If you see the Ramos documentary on Amazon Prime, you see that part against Ajax. Oh my God, that was beautiful.
I forgot he was filming that at that time. I think he was out that match too, and he was like watching from from the seats, and he was just like shaking his head. It's like, oh my God.
He was cursing a lot in Spanish, I'll tell you that much. Oh man, no, that's definitely interesting. So yeah, next game, which is gonna be, I guess, the rivals if either Man City or Madrid goes through. Lyon against Juventus. I think we kind of know that who's gonna be there, but you know, just for sakes, Nick, what do you think and why they'll be on top?
I think Juventus will ultimately get the win here against the Lyon side. That's been very hit or miss and is not top quality as Juventus has been. Cristiano Ronaldo is a big game player. He's a Champions League player. and him and Dybala since the restart have been fantastic for Juventus, but they have struggled defensively to keep the ball out of their net since the restart, and lately they've been getting into this really bad way of conceding a lot of goals to lesser teams in Serie A, and as a result, losing out points recently against some very inferior teams. And Lyon is a little bit better than some of these teams that I'm talking about, and I think Lyon is going to have a chance here to maybe potentially get behind that back four and test Chesney a little bit. But with that being said, I think Juventus is going to be too much for Lyon and Ronaldo. I think Ronaldo, kind of how I said about Messi, he is not going to go down without. I don't think he's going to go down without getting a goal or two in this game,
Yep.
And he's going to do everything he can to get them through. And I think the midfield for Juventus is going to be very important as well. I think it's got to be better. And Miralem Pjanic, his last hurrah, as you would say here for Juventus. We're going to be interested to see if he can carry some momentum for Barcelona your way next year. But
actually, true, yeah.
He's going to be very. So we'll see. We'll see if he can have some good form and quality going forward. But Juventus, this is a team that's really battle tested. They've been here before. A lot of veterans on this team, a lot of experience, and I expect them to get past Lyon eventually here.
Oh yeah, definitely. Just like their last game, Dybala right now is on fire. Always, there's talks that they say Dybala and Ronaldo can't really play together, just like Dybala and Messi can't really play together. Obviously, Higuain couldn't play that game. Then Dybala stepped in, and he's looking good. The Dybala is really looking good. Him linking over Ronaldo is working perfectly at the moment. So, obviously Juventus is probably going to win. But, Robert, anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, I think it's hard to pick against Juventus here. I mean, they are the better team on paper. I think also, never count out Cristiano Ronaldo in a championship game, a Champions League game like this. And, never forget what he did to Atletico Madrid last year, where, he scored the hat trick, made the comeback, and, taunted in Diego Simeone's face. I mean, he lives for these moments. And, this is a matchup where he can completely dominate. And, I think Juventus all season long, Serie A has not been, it's been a little bit competitive for, the teams in second and stuff like that. But, Juventus hasn't been on their A game this season. I don't think they've been a little bit inconsistent, but still, I think when it comes to against a team like Lyon, I think they are the favorite, and I would expect them to go through. And I hope if they do go through that Real Madrid is joining them so that we get to see the Real Madrid Juventus matchup where, Cristiano Ronaldo faces his former club. I would love to see that, but, we'll see what happens. But, yeah, I think I'm picking Juventus for this matchup.
No. Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with that. And, Ashley, you talking about that matchup, it would be great to watch that. But, it's funny because if Juventus win that game and, say, Barcelona somehow, wins against Bayern, probably unlikely. But we're going to see a Ronaldo-Messi semifinal again in the Champions League.
That'd be funny. That'd be fun, too.
That would be insane. And when was the last time they met in the Champions League? What was it like when Ronaldo was in Manchester United, right?
I think it would have to be.
So.
Yeah, and I think we already know who went on top. But that I think that would be awesome if that was a thing. But so next game, Leipzig, what's it called, against Atletico Madrid, and obviously remember, Leipzig has no Timo Werner. So Nick, you want to start us off?
Yeah, and I think for that exact reason, no Timo Werner, I think no Leipzig. Moving on. I think it's that simple. It's not like there's not quality players around that was around Timo Werner, but a lot of what they did was revolved around him. And I think that Atletico is another team. There's experience on their side here. A lot of guys who have played Champions League football, and they seem to do this a lot, where they make these deep runs with some teams, with some guys where you're like, well, those teams maybe not as talented. And it's the same thing this year. It's not nearly as talented as a team, I'd argue, as a lot of the big boys in this club, or that are left in the league, rather. But, you saw them take down Liverpool. At their very best, given the way they play, they can beat anybody in the world on any given night. And that's a very dangerous team in Atletico. And then that's why I think they may be the sleeper here to get I mean, they may be the sleeper here because they're on that side where you said PSG is.
Yeah.
Atletico play a very unique game, and they're able to defend so well and really in Simeone's tactics. And I think that all they need is just all they're going to need really is a goal and maybe a lucky one here at bounces as they usually get. And I think they should beat Leipzig pretty handily here and look forward to what they have after this.
Yeah, Atletico has been pretty good, especially against Liverpool. Llorente. That was a wonderful game. I'll say definitely one of my favorite games that I watched this
Robert
this year.
enjoyed it too.
No, I definitely did not enjoy Adrian blowing that game.
Yeah, that was beautiful. But for our last game, obviously, because then we don't really know what the games could be or whatever. We'll say that for another podcast, I guess. Atalanta against PSG. Let's go a little more into detail about who's gonna win, why. It's probably the toughest match, I'm not gonna lie, out of this. But yeah, Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I made my arguments for Atalanta. Given what that says, I think that's the best case scenario for them. I think PSG ultimately should move on. They are the better side. I wouldn't be surprised if Atalanta shocked them here. I think the possibility's there, but PSG should, and I think will get this win and move on.
Yeah, no, Robert?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with Nick. I mean, I think it's very unlikely Atalanta somehow shock PSG, but I think of any of the matchups of any comeback, I would love to see. Well, obviously the Real Madrid comeback, I'd love to see. But for a team like Atalanta, where they're not the favorite in this matchup at all. I mean, not even close. I would love to see them upset a huge team like PSG. It's one of those great moments you only see in something like the Champions League. And I'm definitely picking PSG in this matchup, but I would be pleasantly surprised if that happened.
No, yeah. The only reason why, it could happen, Atalanta in the group stage, they were bottom. There was no way they were getting out. But somehow a miracle happened. I don't know what happened to them. I don't know if the stars aligned for them, but they came from the bottom all the way to I don't think they went to the top, but I think maybe second place. But still, they just been running everywhere. So, and the fact that they have this run in the Calcio, Serie A, it's been incredible to watch. Their attacking football is beautiful, and PSG, it's a tough game for them, I would say. Just because of I don't think PSG's defense is that good. I would say, Kimpembe looks. Yeah, I would say Kimpembe is pretty good. Thiago Silva sometimes makes mistakes, but he's still rock solid sometimes. Marquinhos, obviously, I wish he would have came to Barcelona, but yeah. Well, I guess we'll see how that game's gonna happen. But I think PSG would probably go to the top. I mean, but it would be. I wouldn't be too surprised if Atalanta did go either. But I think this is PSG's tournament to win. Finally, for spending like 500 million on everyone. So, and this could be like every other year, Neymar's last chance to win something with PSG. Well, Champions League with PSG, which I don't think he's gonna come back. But maybe next summer. Maybe next summer. But so I guess that's it. Follow Hitting the Field. All the social media is probably linked down below. Till then, guys. Thank you for watching / hearing all the podcast places. Appreciate it. And thanks, Robert and Nick, for coming talk about some football.
Thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a long episode, a long one. And I guess we'll see you guys next time. Peace.